If you want to compose music for video games and you don't know who's actually going to own your music or how many times you're going to get paid off the music you create, you're probably giving away your best work for a one-time fee. Freelance game music is usually delivered under one of two structures: a license agreement where you retain ownership, you keep ownership of the music, and the developer gets licensed rights for it, or a work for hire where the developer or publisher is legally considered the author of the music you create. They own it. Ownership patterns do shift with game size. At indie, 36% of freelance indie game composers say their last project was licensed. I mean, they kept the ownership, but they licensed it out to the developer. At midcore, only 11% licensed, and hear this, at AAA, 0% of composers license their last project. It's essentially all work for hire at the top. So the bigger the game, the more likely it is you're going to have work for hire and you don't own the music. Now look, even if you don't own the music, you can still get performance right organization like ASCAP and BMI payments and income. PRO is a performing rights organization like ASCAP, that's ASCAP, or BMI, that's BMI, just the letters BMI. And in fact, in the last 12 months, 36% of AAA freelance composers reported receiving PRO income from the game music that they didn't have full ownership over, and that's according to GameSoundCon. Now, indie and midcore freelancers also get PRO money, but AAA freelancers were the most likely to report it. Now, employees, both at game outsourcing audio companies and inside of game studios, can get performance right organization royalties too, but overall it's less often than freelancers. Now, let's talk about extra contract terms for employees with additional income. Among salaried employees at game studios, AAA composers, 23% of them got nothing beyond salary. Others reported cash bonus, 63%, company stock, 32%, soundtrack revenue, 2%, and per unit royalty, 6%. Midcore employees, 39% got salary only. Bonuses reported at 34%, stock at 26%, soundtrack revenue at 4%, and royalties 13%. For indie employees, 26% were salary only. For bonuses, 47% in terms of actual cash bonuses, stock 11%, soundtrack revenue 16%, royalties 15%, and ancillary use 5%. Now when it comes to freelancers and additional income, AAA freelancers, 2/3 got no extra payments. Whatever they were paid up front, that was it. Some got bonuses, 16% reported that, 12% reported getting stock, soundtrack revenue at 12%, royalties at 7%, and ancillary income at 4%. For midcore freelancers, 50% got contract fee only, cash bonuses 20%, stock 8%, soundtrack revenue 24%, royalties 5%, and ancillary revenue 4%. For indie freelancers, 42% were that fee only, 8% report other bonuses, 5% stock, soundtrack revenue 36%, royalties 21%, and ancillary 5%. So indie deals are much smaller per minute, but way more likely to include soundtrack revenue and royalties than the top paying per minute AAA contracts. Now across all composers, this is freelance and employees, 44% of indie composers are eligible for soundtrack revenue, 47% of midcore composers, and 29% of AAA composers. Now to be clear, that includes stuff that they're arguing for and they are negotiating for in their own contracts that they're getting. This is not just like some standard thing. This is what people are asking for. And by the way, you'll never get something that you don't ask for. So ask, and ask in a way that someone's likely to give it to you. So remember, these numbers includes cases where no soundtrack was ever released. So eligible doesn't always mean paid. It does mean that the contract gave you a shot that if the soundtrack was released, that you would get paid from it. Also, again, remember, you can ask in the contract that the soundtrack get released and even offer to take charge of that part of the operation to make sure you can maximize the impact of the time you spent creating music. On an indie game I'm composing for right now called Medieval Legends, I got full ownership of the soundtrack outside of the game for digital distribution, and I'm going to be releasing it on DistroKid and Bandcamp onto all the different platforms as well as onto YouTube. Now, in the contract was also that the studio was actually going to create the album art. So I'm not in charge of the album art. I'm going to get the album art and then I'll just release it the way that I know how to release music. Now, keep in mind, this kind of contract flexibility is going to be available to you at the indie and mid-core level and likely not at the AAA level where most things are work for hire. Now, inside our Gamer Music Creator Guild, which is our signature program that takes gamers from little or no music experience through creating professional quality music, releasing it on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, and creating it into video games, we actually have an incredible AAA guest instructor whose name is Jeff Broadbent. He's composed Terraria Otherworld for Marvel, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Resident Evil, Diablo, and many other AAA titles. And he actually breaks down the exact playbook that got him all the jobs that he works at the AAA level. And that's inside our Music Money course. And you can get the free video game starter pack in the video description. That'll get you started, but if you want access to the full courses, including Jeff's AAA knowledge, you can set up a call and talk to our team and actually apply for the Gamer Music Creator Guild in the link in the video description. So, what to do with all this info as a freelancer? So, if you're aiming at indie, a normal per minute rate is going to be roughly $400 to $600, with some going higher. If your skills and portfolio justify it, don't be in the bargain bin. It's better to charge closer to the market median and over-deliver than undercharge and burn out. So use this as a sanity check. Are you in the same galaxy as everyone else in terms of how you're structuring your contract and if you're getting paid twice? Are you getting paid once for the music you create and then again with the performance right organization, or again through royalties? Or are you owning the music to then get paid again a second time through streams and through uploading on YouTube and through repurposing your content? You can also use this information as a negotiation anchor. So typical indie rates range from X to Y. Here's where I sit in Y. Here's what I want in my contract. You can also use this as a roadmap. So as your skills and credits scale from indie to mid-core to AAA, your rate and your back-end terms should also climb and change with them. Now you can check out this video where I walk you through how to make the most money possible given your current skill set composing music. Go ahead, click that right there.